What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you my updated college football top 25 rankings as we head into week number 3 of the 2024 college football season. So based off of what I've seen in the first 2 weeks of the college football season, maybe 3 weeks if you count week 0, I have made quite a few changes pretty much throughout the first 2 weeks of the season. Week number 1 pretty much wasn't a lot of changes. Week number 2 last week made quite a few changes. But now we go into week number 3. I have made quite a lot of changes since the first 2 weeks just because of all the close games that we had over the second weekend of the college football season. And we also saw some upsets. So you're going to see some new teams here in my top 25 rankings as we head into week number 3. I feel like this weekend will be a pretty quiet weekend because we don't really have a lot of big games, but we still got some top 25 teams that are going to be probably heading on some, heading to like some tough places to play. And you never know. We could see some upsets this weekend. You just never know what can happen here in these college football games week by week. And, of course, that's what happened, of course, in the second weekend. So let's go ahead and get right into my top 25 for week number 3. I will start, of course, from the bottom and work my way up to the top. So we start here from 21 through 25. So, again, like I mentioned, I got new teams here in the top 25 from 23 through 25. Get to those in just a minute. But I got Iowa State here at number 25, Syracuse at number 24, Illinois at number 23, Boston College at number 22, and then Arizona comes in at number 21. So Boston College and Arizona were ranked for me last week, but I got 3 new teams here from 23 to 25. I got the Cyclones, Syracuse, and then Illinois here at number 23. These 3 teams that you're seeing here from 23 to 25 all got wins over top 25 teams this weekend, and I think that's the reason why you got to just put these teams in the rankings. Iowa State, low-scoring game against Iowa in that rivalry game. They go on the road and beat the Hawkeyes, though. Iowa actually was really good on the offensive side of the football from last weekend. I thought they would carry that offensive momentum into this game against the Cyclones, but that obviously did not turn out to be the case. I was expecting a low-scoring type game anyway, and like I said from last week before this game even happened, usually the away team in this rivalry wins this rivalry game almost each and every single year. We saw the Hawkeyes beat Iowa State on the road last year. This year the Cyclones get the revenge, and they beat Iowa on the road. So again, it seems like the away team always wins this game, and I think with that performance for Iowa State, they definitely deserve to be ranked here in the top 25. This is a very experienced Iowa State team, and with that win over Iowa, I feel like they have a chance to be a dark horse team in the Big 12. Syracuse, big win against Georgia Tech, a really good Georgia Tech team that's really impressed me in the first 2 weeks, or I should say maybe in the first 3 weeks, to be honest. Obviously, they had Florida State in that first game in week 0, and then, of course, the cupcake game against Georgia State. But Syracuse gets a big win there. You look at Syracuse's schedule, the way that it sets up and everything, Syracuse definitely could be like a big dark horse team in the ACC. And they're not really that far behind of some of these top teams in the conference either. Clemson, obviously they're still in it. And then you got Miami, who's probably the most talented team in the ACC. You've got Florida State, that's 0-2 right now. Florida State might not be really good, but you look at this Syracuse team, again, they have a pretty easy schedule. If they can keep winning like this, and if Kyle McCord keeps playing like how he's playing in the first 2 weeks of the season, Syracuse definitely could have like a really good season. So again, watch out here for the Orange. I think they definitely deserve to be in the top 25 based off of what they looked like in the first 2 weeks, and especially after a good win against a really good Georgia Tech team. So I got Syracuse here at number 24. Illinois comes in at number 23. Big upset win over Kansas on Saturday. The defense did their job and everything. So Illinois is a team that everybody wasn't really that high on this season. And if you look at this Illinois team now, I think they could be actually pretty good. But based on that win against the Jayhawks, they definitely deserve to be in the top 25 in my opinion. They pulled off a huge upset against a top 25 team and a really well-coached team in Kansas. Now, Kansas did lose their offensive coordinator, so maybe that's the reason why they couldn't score on this Illinois defense. But based off of what I've seen, I think Illinois might actually be a really good team and also a very surprise team as well. But again, you look at these teams here from 23 to 25, they all deserve to be ranked here in the top 25 based on their wins over the weekend. So again, these are the new teams that I have here in the top 25 25 for this weekend. And then Boston College and Arizona both took care of business this weekend. Boston College, I had them ranked, of course, from last week after the win over Florida State. This is a really good team. Not like a really great team or anything like that. They're just overall pretty good, and they could be a surprise team as well. We'll see their first real competition coming up this weekend. They'll play Missouri on the road. That's going to be a big game there if Boston College can get the win there. This Boston College team, I'm telling you, they definitely also could be a dark horse team in the ACC. So again, watch out here for Boston College at number 22 in my rankings. And then Arizona obviously took care of business in their second game with their new head coach. Arizona also have their first real kind of tough test this weekend on the road at Kansas State. Kansas State actually didn't really look good against Tulane, so we'll see how that's going to play out here for the Wildcats. That's a non-conference game. It doesn't count as a Big 12 game, just like the Utah and Baylor game from this past weekend as well. So again, I got Arizona here at number 21. So these are my rankings here from 21 through 25. All right, 16 through 20, I got Notre Dame at number 20, Michigan at number 19, Clemson comes in at number 18, LSU at number 17, and then I got Louisville here at number 16. So Notre Dame and Michigan both dropped for me. Both of these teams were in the top 10 for me last week in my rankings. After their bad losses, though, Notre Dame and Michigan drop here just inside the top 20. I can't really drop them outside the top 20, though, because Arizona and Boston College, I don't think they're definitely going to beat those teams if these two teams played on like a neutral field and everything. But if Michigan and Notre Dame played on a neutral field, I probably would take Michigan, to be honest. I think it would be a defensive battle, but I think both of these teams are pretty even in talent-wise. But you look at Notre Dame, obviously a very disappointing loss in Northern Illinois. A game-winning field goal by the Huskies. This is a very disappointing loss here for the Fighting Irish. Now, I don't think their playoff hopes are over, but Notre Dame has a schedule that, it's not really that, hard and everything, that they can probably get a good enough resume to get into the college football playoff. Even if they, went out and go 11-1, they can probably make it in, but if they go 10-2, I think they're probably not going to make the college football playoff just because of that loss to Northern Illinois. Again, that's a very disappointing loss here for the Fighting Irish. And this is not the only time that Notre Dame's had a loss to like a group of 5 team. They lost to Marshall a couple years ago. That was actually Marcus Freeman's, first year. And I mentioned that, of course, yesterday in my recap video. If you have not seen that video, be sure to go back and check it out. And I did talk about Notre Dame here. Not being a really bad team, but again, just a disappointing loss. I feel like after that game against Texas A&M from a week ago, they were probably all beat up, and they probably just weren't ready to play in this game. And again, the offense just really struggled. Now, Northern Illinois looks like they have a really good defense, but again, that offense has just got to get better here for the Fighting Irish. If they can get better, if Notre Dame can probably just get better as the season goes along, they could still make the college football playoff. Now, they do got some top 25 games on the schedule. They'll have Louisville coming up and everything, but they also got USC, so maybe that's enough to get them into the college football playoff if they win both of those games. But we will see what happens. We'll see if Notre Dame can bounce back after that loss to Northern Illinois. Again, it's a really disappointing loss here for the Fighting Irish. Michigan, on the other hand, a very tough loss to Texas. This Michigan team has got some issues on the offensive side of the football. I still think this is a top 25 team. I didn't drop them out of the top 25 because it was against a Texas team that's ranked inside the top 10. Michigan, though, just really couldn't catch up to Texas's offense in this game. And again, the offense just wasn't really good for Michigan. Texas really controlled the clock in this game. I thought Michigan's game plan was going to be like running the football and really slow down that Texas offense, keep them off the field for as long as possible. But that obviously did not happen, and Michigan's defense just could not stop Quinn Ewers. Even they put pressure on him. Quinn Ewers delivered some good throws down the field. So again, Michigan drops for me. They were at number 7 for me last week, and then Notre Dame was at number 8 for me. So both of these teams that were inside the top 10 for me last week, they both drop here from number 9 to number 19 and number 20, just inside the top 20. Clemson and LSU are pretty similar teams. They both bounced back this weekend, putting up really good offensive performances. Clemson with a good win over a really good group of 5 team in Appalachian State. So yeah, Clemson, I thought they would also beat up a little bit after that loss to Georgia, but they came in there and put on a really good offensive performance. So I was really impressed with Clemson's performance this time, and then same thing with LSU. They bounced back as well. So LSU and Clemson both at number 17 and number 18. And then Louisville took care of business as well this weekend. The offense just continues to be really explosive through the first 2 games. I kind of want to see Louisville play like a really good, good team and see how the offense goes up against a really good defensive team. So we will see what happens here for the Cardinals, but Tyler Shough and this offense is looking really good as of right now. So these are my rankings here from 16 through 20. All right, 11 through 15 now. I got Kansas State at number 15, Oklahoma at number 14, Missouri at number 13, USC at number 12, and then Tennessee comes in at number 11. So Kansas State goes on the road here, and faces Tulane. It was a really tough game here for the Wildcats. I mean, obviously Tulane gave Kansas State a lot of, really big scares in this game. I thought Tulane actually had a chance to pull off the upset. This is not the same Tulane team as we saw from last year, but based off of what we've seen from Tulane so far, it looks like Tulane actually might be a really good team. I mean, this is not, again, the same coaching team that we had from last year. Willie Fritz, of course, has gone to Houston, but again, Kansas State really struggled to get anything going. I mean, actually, they were trailing Tulane here, I think, at halftime. I can't remember, but, Kansas State, they were able to get well coached in this game in the fourth quarter, and they were able to pull away by, 7 points. And again, Kansas State actually will play Arizona. Maybe they're overlooking Tulane, and they probably were focused on that Arizona game from the next weekend. That'll be a top 25 matchup. It should be a good one there coming up on Friday. So again, Kansas State here at number 15. They go into the top 15 for me. Just based off of what happened, of course, with all the chaos with Michigan and Notre Dame. But I got the Wildcats here at number 15, and then Oklahoma comes in at number 14. I know Oklahoma wasn't really impressive against Houston, but I think this Houston team, like I mentioned in the upset alert video, Houston actually was a 29-point underdog going into this game. I think just because based off of what Oklahoma did to Temple. Look, that game is just the first game of the season. It was against a bad team, so this is kind of like the first real test for Oklahoma against a Houston team that's head coached by Willie Fritz. And like I said, Houston probably overlooked UNLV and obviously focused on Oklahoma the next weekend. And maybe that's why they were competitive. The offense really struggled for Oklahoma, but the defense did their job and held Houston to like 12 points, so they get the 4-point victory. So yeah, I want to see Oklahoma play like a really good team. They'll have Tennessee coming up in a couple weeks. I just wonder how they're going to do in the SEC. But this Oklahoma team still has a long way to go before the offense gets better. But the defense is already looking really good for the Sooners. So I got this team at number 14. And then Missouri took care of business against Buffalo, shutting them out. And like I mentioned, Boston College and Missouri playing a good matchup coming up this weekend. Again, if Missouri can, get that victory, I think Missouri definitely is right there among one of those dark horse teams in the SEC. I mean, coming off a really good season last year, I mean, they're off to a really good start here so far this season. And the offense has looked really good. The defense also, I want to see how they do against Boston College and see if they can stop that running game of Boston College as well. So again, Missouri here at number 13. Big game against Boston College again coming up this weekend. And then USC took care of business against Utah State, not allowing a single point here. That's a really good sign there if you're a USC fan, seeing the defense be really good in the first 2 weeks. So yeah, USC here at number 12. We'll see what they look like coming up against Michigan in their first Big Ten game. That'll be their first kind of real test. But Michigan, based off of what we've seen, they might not be a really good team. So we'll have to see how that game plays out. So USC here at number 12. And then Tennessee, very impressive performance against NC State. The offense did their job, scoring 51 points. This might be the most explosive offense in the country and definitely in the SEC in the first 2 weeks of the season. I kind of want to see Tennessee play like an even more tougher competition and also against a really good defensive team. And again, we'll get that in a couple more weeks against Oklahoma. That'll be the Tennessee's first, SEC game. And Josh Heupel, of course, will be returning to his former school where he won, or actually was a runner-up in the Heisman Trophy standing. So yeah, that'll be an interesting storyline there. Again, Tennessee, though, I was really impressed with Nico Amaliava, even though he had a couple of turnovers in that game against NC State. Tennessee just overall was really explosive on the offensive side of the football. And the defense also, I was very impressed with the defense as well. So the Tennessee Volunteers, again, at number 11, they have looked good in the first 2 weeks. And these are my rankings here from 11 through 15. All right, 6 through 10 now. I've made quite a few changes here in the top 10 and going into the top 5 as well. I got Miami at number 10, Utah at number 9, Oklahoma State at number 8, Penn State at number 7, and then Oregon comes in at number 6. I'll get to them in just a moment. Miami, easy win over Florida A&M. They'll play Ball State this weekend, and then they got South Florida in a couple weeks. And based off of what South Florida did into Alabama in the first half, that probably could be a tricky game there for the Hurricanes, even though, Miami is playing at home in that game. I mean, you never know. South Florida, based off of what they did against Alabama, South Florida might actually be a really good group of 5 team. Utah here at number 9 gets a big win over Baylor. The offense wasn't really explosive as it was in the first weekend, but obviously the defense did prevail here for the Utes. I think Utah is going to have a pretty good defensive team, and the offense can get better and better. This Utah team is definitely not that far behind in the Big 12 standings. And then Oklahoma State, I think they're still the top team here in the Big 12. Had to go to double overtime in that game over Arkansas. That game, of course, was a shootout. Oklahoma State gets the 2-point conversion. Then, of course, the defense did their job and when Arkansas got the ball back and everything. But, Arkansas might actually be like a really sneaky good team in the SEC. They look like an improved team based on what the offense looks like. But Oklahoma State, at the end of the day, got the win in a really close one. Again, that game went into a double overtime, and that was a really good finish to that game. And, again, the Cowboys here at number 8, and then Penn State at number 7. Look, I know Penn State didn't perform that well against Bowling Green, but I'm still going to give them credit for that win, a week ago against West Virginia. So you still got to give the credit for the Nittany Lions beating a Power 4 team this past weekend. But again, we'll see what Penn State does when they get into tougher competition, especially when they get into Big Ten play as well. And we'll see how for real this team actually is. And again, it was just a really bad performance against Bowling Green. So Penn State here at number 7, and then Oregon. I had Oregon at number 3 last week. I dropped them 3 spots. Yes, they got the win over Boise State, a really good group of 5 team, but I haven't been really impressed with Oregon in the last couple weeks. The first 2 weeks of the season have not really gone well for the Ducks. Dylan Gabriel obviously is a really good quarterback. Maybe it's just because of the change at quarterback. But, this Oregon team, again, they're very talented. I think this is a playoff contender, but they have not shown that in the first 2 weeks of the season. They only won by 10, of course, against Idaho, and then, of course, only won by 3. Had to get a game-winning field goal against a really good Boise State team. And if you look at the first 2 weeks of the season, Oregon has been a big favorite in both of their games, and especially against Boise State by 19.5 points. Yeah, that spread really surprised me, and I was really close to putting Boise State as a really big upset alert type game. But, Boise State came in there, really did their job at competing and everything, but Oregon still gets the win at the end of the day. Again, I still think this is a very talented team, but based off of the first 2 weeks, it's just not really gone well for Oregon. So that's the reason why you're seeing them outside the top 5 for me. Again, I had this team at number 3 from last week. So again, these are my rankings here from 6 through 10, and like I said, I've made some changes here to the top 5 and also from 6 through 10. So in the top 5, I got Ole Miss here at number 5, then Alabama at number 4, Texas at number 3, Ohio State at number 2, and then Georgia at number 1. Ole Miss took care of business. I think based off of what Oregon's looked like in the first 2 weeks, that's how the Rebels get in here in the top 5, just based off of the Ducks' performances. But, Ole Miss is a really good team. They have a very explosive offense. The defense looks really good as well. I kind of want to see Ole Miss play like a really tough game to see how good this team is going to be. So I got the Rebels here at number 5, and then Alabama. Just talked about them. Alabama kind of struggled against South Florida in the first half, but by the fourth quarter they got things going on the offensive side of the football. And obviously South Florida is just really surprising me a lot of how they competed with Alabama in the last couple years now. And again, Alabama, if they can, again, just get things going, if they can get better on the offensive side of the football, this team definitely will be dangerous. But I kind of want to see how Alabama plays against Georgia in a couple more weeks. I think that game's coming up on September 28th, if I'm not mistaken, so it's really close. But they'll have like a really tough game coming up this weekend. It's probably the biggest game coming up this weekend in Wisconsin. Again, that game will be on the road. Wisconsin didn't look great in the first weekend, but they definitely looked a lot better in the second weekend. So I think Alabama definitely will have a little bit of tough time there in that game, but we'll see how it goes. And again, I won't make predictions for all these games coming up in Week 3 on Thursday. But I got Alabama here at number 4, and then Texas. Big win against Michigan here on the road. I was actually close to putting Texas here at number 1 just because of based off of what they've done in the first 2 weeks of the season, but I decided to move them up here to number 3. Like I said, I had Oregon here at number 3 from last week. This time I got the Longhorns. Texas might be the best team in the country. Don't get me wrong, because the offense again is looking really good. Quinn Ewers has been really consistent in the first 2 games, and he played a really good game here against a Michigan defense that obviously had a chance to be one of the top defenses in the country this year. So again, the Longhorns here have looked really good in the first couple of weeks. We'll see what they look like going into the SEC, but I think they're ready for the SEC based off of what they've done in the first 2 weeks. And then Ohio State and Georgia, they remain here at number 1 and number 2. Ohio State took care of business this weekend. The offense, again, very explosive, and the defense looked really good as well. And then for Georgia, obviously took care of business against Tennessee Tech. They'll play Kentucky this weekend, which I think Georgia's going to be a big favorite now in that game. That game might not even be close because Kentucky obviously got really blown out by South Carolina. The offensive line is a big struggle for Kentucky. So you look at this Georgia team, I think they'll be pretty dominant in that game. So that is my top 5 there. Again, a few changes here in the top 5 from 1 through 5 and definitely in the top 10. So that is my updated top 25 rankings heading into week number 3 of the 2024 college football season. So let me guys know what you think about my top 25 rankings, and also give me your top 25 rankings down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.